What's going on, guys? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show. We'll get Eric in on this in a second. That game was not what I was hoping for. It wasn't quite a bounce-back game at all. It was pretty much a carbon copy of the last game we had against Denver. So, there we go. There's Eric. Let me put him on here. Eric, I'm already live. So just let me know when you wanna be on the stream. This game was very just not the improvement that I was hoping for from game 3 to game 4. We didn't really improve as a team, I feel like, from game 2 to game 3 to game 4. And basically all I was looking for was improvement, right? We don't care about wins. We don't care about losses. We want to see some improvement to encourage us for when games actually start to matter. And we didn't really see that. So, give me your reaction in chat. I know there's some people that are overreacting a little bit. Some people that says, oh, it's not a big deal, it's preseason. I've seen a bunch of different types of reactions. So give me your summarized reaction to this game in chat. Eric, you ready to go? All right. So Randall Pink Floyd says trash game and CJ played like trash. We will touch on CJ. In a bit. It doesn't help playing in altitude. I kind of wish we weren't playing in Denver. I feel like the team looked to lack focus today and looked kind of just out of it mentally. A lot of our defensive mistakes, I think, were just silly individual defensive mistakes. I was actually tweeting out a lot of our defensive mistakes on my Twitter account, on the media page, honestly, a lot of them weren't necessarily due to scheme. I'm not even really going to blame the coaching for this. A lot of it was just guys mentally not focusing on that end, it seemed like, and making silly mistakes. So, Eric, what's your initial reaction to this?
I'm a little irritated, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I feel like after last game, there should be an emphasis going into this game that we need to work on moving the ball, and I felt like that wasn't a point of emphasis at all, and that really frustrates me.
Yeah, that part is definitely frustrating. That's the one part where I can put some blame on Stotts, because we're just running a very stagnant offense. We're not moving the ball. We're just going in isolation and one-on-one. You know, the same type of offense that we've seen for years, and we need to get away from that. And it's like, if that's not a high area of emphasis in the preseason, I don't know. Like, the only way I can contort my mindset to being okay with it is, oh, we're saving stuff for the regular season. But that doesn't really make sense, because they need to work on ball movement outside of sets, because a lot of times sets break down and you need to be able to move the ball outside of that. So I was hoping to see some of that, and we didn't see that.
Yeah, like, there is no reason. We should have gone to this game saying, if you shoot without passing the ball on a possession offense, you're getting benched. Like, that should have been the mindset, or something like along those lines. Maybe not that harsh, but there's no reason to go ISO one-on-one like 10 times in a row if you're CJ. In a freaking preseason game when you're the starting point guard and you need to set up the offense and facilitate. There's absolutely no excuse for that. There is no excuse for the coaching staff. Let him do that the entire quarter and just continue to there's no point even playing a game if you're just going to watch them go one-on-one and not do anything the whole game. Like, why even play a fourth game? Why didn't you choose to only play 3 if you weren't going to take it seriously? It just I'm kind of mad, actually. I don't agree with you that it's nothing because it's preseason.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't say that. I said some fans have. I've seen that. I don't think it's nothing. Offensively, we've ran our offense like this, and we were just fine in the regular season last year, and we were playing we had worse offensive talent out there, right? It just comes down to postseason. The way we run our offense kind of screws us over once the playoffs start. It doesn't really translate well to playoff basketball and against really good defensive teams. So in that regard, I have some patience, but it's going to have to change. We cannot run the offense like this and expect to succeed in the postseason, right? So it's like, I don't know. My mindset is we need to be playing our best basketball once the postseason rolls around. And like, the way I look at it is I would rather be a 6 seed with a chance at beating the Lakers and a chance at contending than be a 3 seed with no chance of beating the Lakers, right? So if we have to lose some regular season games because we are doing the right things, but we're not, efficient at doing so yet, if we have to go through some growing pains to really grow into the best versions of ourselves and take some losses along the way, I'm fine with that, even if it means we're a lower seed, because in the end I want this team to contend, and that might mean losing a few more games during the regular season. It would give them a little harder path, but we got to change the offense, right?
Watching tonight though isn't like, that's just doing what we did before. Like you said, that's not growing pains of learning a new offense. That's just not even trying a new offense. So that's going to make me mad if we're having growing pains on top of not changing stuff, instead of those growing pains because we're like moving the ball a little bit and people weren't hitting shots, or like people were making bad passes or not the right reads, or they're not sure where to be yet. That kind of stuff is fine. Like, I could totally live with that if that was the problem tonight, but that wasn't. We just didn't have any sort of game plan. And then you contrast that with a team like Denver, who moves the ball beautifully and gets whatever shot they want against our crappy defense. And they had 30 assists tonight. They had 39 assists the last game. They probably should have had more than 30 assists. But their shots were so easy, even without passing, that it didn't really matter if they passed or not in some situations.
Yeah.
But like, and then we have 17 assists or something tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
how many assists did we have last game? I'll actually check that.
I think it was 20. I want to say 20.
Was it 20?
And that's where we've been like the last, handful of years, right around 20 assists per game, good for usually last or close to last in the league. So, this isn't giving me very much hope when we watch it. Like I said, if we're not getting assists because like people aren't hitting shots, or the offense is still kind of clunky because we're trying new things, that's one thing. But when CJ's going like 1-on-3, Melo's isolating, and Cantor's posting up and not making layups and stuff like that, like, I don't know, it's gonna make me mad if we're just continually not moving the ball and being stagnant on offense. And it doesn't give me much hope that it's going to change anytime soon. Yes, it could get better by the end of the season, but like, I think it's going to be a rough start for this season. I don't know. Yeah, I'm hoping I'm wrong though.
I don't know. Like, it's kind of hurt us during the regular season. Like last year, I think it probably cost us a little bit in the regular season, but nowhere near as much as the defense, I feel like. So for me, it's just like, okay, during the regular season, our defense probably leads to more losses, but our offense could definitely be better. When the playoffs roll around, it's just when you're a team that is an offense, when your best trait is your offense, you can't have a stagnant offense in the playoffs that teams can easily shut down. That'll completely just wipe you out of being able to even contend. So it's like, okay, we got 72 games to sort this out, right? Because I don't think it hurts us as much in the regular season as it does in the playoffs. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt us, but it's just like, okay, we got 72 games, and it's frustrating that it's not an area of emphasis during the preseason. And like, part of me is very frustrated, like right on board with you, and then like part of me is like, okay, you know what? This is a 72 game season. Let's just see if they figure it out. I'm not like encouraged. I'm not even leaning towards believing that they will change anything, but like, I'm willing to just, okay, well, we'll see. We need to see this offense become a more team-based unit, and maybe that requires Giles supplanting Cantor, and maybe Collins can supplant Melo. I don't think they're going to take Melo out of the rotation. They want to protect his legacy, even if it, might not be what's best for the team. And I don't even know, man. Like, I'm not even saying that Collins should necessarily play over Melo. You just can't pair those two in the front court together on the floor at the same time. You cannot put Melo in the game with Cantor in the front court, just because neither of them are good defenders. That's the problem there. That's the issue. You have to have one good defensive front court player, or you're gonna get screwed. And so it's gonna have to come down to like Canner most likely being supplanted in the rotation, and then maybe we'll play better defense. And here's the thing, Canner doesn't help our ball movement. With that bench unit, he's a guy you throw the ball into the post and he just isolates and posts up. And he was very slow at making reads on the right pass to make this game. There was a couple passes that were there that would have been great passes that he was way too slow to recognize. It's like, if you have Giles in there, the defense will be better. He'll actually make those reads faster. Giles actually had I think it was a turnover today because he was in the corner, caught the ball, zipped it into the paint, and I think it was Ellaby or Canner was on that block, basically wide open, and they ran away from the spot. Mm-hmm. And Giles made what I thought was a great pass, but it didn't look like a great pass because the person that he was passing to basically ran himself away from an open lane. It's stuff like that. So I don't know. It's part of it. I think, okay, you get Nurkic more in shape and more in game shape, and maybe then they're more comfortable giving him the ball and relying more on his playmaking, which kind of spurs some of the ball movement. And some of it, if you have Giles in with the bench unit, maybe they start to utilize him like that. I don't know. I'm just searching for optimism here.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, because all these people are killing CJ and all that stuff, which, yes, CJ deserves some blame. But once again,
a bigger issue than that. Yeah.
Once again, if the emphasis from the coaching staff is to, okay, guys, tonight, don't look for your shot. Let's get everyone involved. Let's try to move the ball, see if that works. Let's try to at least make a couple passes before we go one-on-one. Let's try to do some stuff early in the shot clock that we don't normally do. Let's try to work on some things here and just pass the ball around the perimeter. I mean, it doesn't even have to be running plays. Just pass the ball a couple times and then go one-on-one or something. But it's frustrating that it's not, and I'm trying not to get too upset about it, but people who are saying oh, see, told you CJ can never be the backup point guard because he can't facilitate. That's BS, man. He can facilitate just fine. He averages enough assists per game as some of the point guards around the NBA, and that's as a secondary option. If he was his first option, he would be right up there with Dame in terms of assists per game, most likely. Maybe a little less, but in the ballpark. And that doesn't make him a bad facilitator. It's the fact that for 5 years now, Stotts has required him in this offense he has no choice but to try and take over, and he never gets any accountability for that. We saw Stotts absolutely lay into Nurk tonight, but did he lay into CJ at all? I didn't even see him say a thing to CJ about him going one-on-one and taking bad shots. Where is the accountability for all the players on the team? It can't just be for Nurk or the people you feel comfortable holding accountable. You have to have the balls to hold everyone on the team accountable. And unless Stotts does that, he is not the right guy for this team. And I'm trying not to take too much from preseason, but he showed his colors again tonight by not having any sort of game plan. What were we doing? I don't even know what we were doing tonight. We weren't even trying. So it's just baffling to me that we just care this little about a preseason game. And I hope it's just that. I hope even the coaching staff just was oh, who cares? It's preseason. Because that's the only way to excuse the performance these last two games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really disagree with anything you're saying. It's just maybe we're saving some stuff for the opener. You know what I mean?
But passing the ball doesn't require saving anything, you know?
But I don't know, man. Teams, and I feel like we've done this in the past, the way we play will flip from the preseason to the regular season, normally for the worse. You know what I mean? Normally it's oh, we have all this ball movement, and then once the regular season rolls around, we go back to being super stagnant, right? Yeah. And it's oh, well, we saw all this ball movement in the playoffs. We were excited for it. Okay, maybe we'll finally change. And then once the regular season rolls around, we revert back. So, that reason is partly why it's I can't really base our ball movement off the preseason, because I feel like our preseason hasn't been a precursor or an indicator for how well we're going to move the ball in the regular season, because we've moved the ball well in preseason past and then it's gone back. So it's not encouraging, but also for me, it's just given what I've seen in previous preseasons, in how our ball movement, how like the ball movement in the preseason wasn't an indicator. It's kind of just like, you know what, let me just wait and see how it looks like in the regular season. Like, it's frustrating that's not a point of emphasis, but in the past it has been a point of emphasis and it hasn't changed anything. So for me, it's just like, okay, well, we're just gonna wait and see. And trust me, I will be laying into it like you if this is how our offenses ran in the regular season and if we're losing games because of that. But for me, it's just like, I guess I'm just a little just we'll just have to wait and see what it looks like.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I hope you're right. Obviously, that would be nice if we were just completely said like, okay, let's just take preseason off. We're good. I feel like we're comfortable enough through practicing, which I don't know how you would be good through like 4 practices or how many ever practices we've had. But I hope that's the case. Is just we're just like, okay, let's just coast our way through preseason and not really show anything. But
yeah,
like, why even play CJ in this game if you're just gonna like if anything, you saw like
to get him into better shape
with this scare. I guess, yeah. I mean, he does need to get in shape, but yeah.
Here's the thing, though, is like, so they've only had 4 practices, and most of those practices have had a very heavy emphasis on defense. I feel like there's a chance that they haven't really been able to put in some of the offensive changes they want yet because they're focusing so heavily on defense, and they've only had 4 practices. So it's like comes down to a thing like, okay, well, we're not even going to worry about the offensive end. We're going to focus solely on the defensive end in this preseason. And because there's like no emphasis on anything offensively, it just turns into guys going one-on-one, and they haven't had the time yet to put things in. That I think could definitely be a possibility. And honestly, like, I'm okay with that if that's the case. I don't know why your camera's so I think it looks a little better now. But do you think that's a possibility? Like, we are so heavily focused on defense, and we've only had 4 practices, and we've been focusing so much on defense that we haven't really had time to put in things offensively, and I mean, that's the only thing. Like, we haven't really had time to really address that end in the improvements we want to make because we're focusing on defense. Do you think that's a possibility?
I'm actually hoping that's wrong too, because like Blockboy and Westbrook say, if we're that focused on defense and that's how it looks, I'm scared as well. Because
but that's what the reports. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, the defensive mistakes we're making is like a lack of situational awareness, and I'm hoping that they just need. I mean, I broke it down constantly on Twitter today.
I know you showed some film, but like, I don't know. It's so preseason, so whatever. But like every single player on this team falls asleep multiple times a game off ball, and their guy just backdoors them and gets a lay-in or an easy basket, or they overhelp. And this is stuff that in the past, yes, you could say is fixable, but this is a staple of Stott's teams to not hold people accountable for doing that. And I truly believe that they do not know how to break down film properly and teach proper technique to their players. So I don't see that improving just because it's an emphasis or whatever. Like, oh, we had an emphasis on defense that one practice after we lost to the Knicks or whatever. Like, it's just frustrating to me that these same mistakes that we've seen you complained about all year are still, like, that's not a defensive scheme or anything like that. That's just people not really like knowing how to play defense at all, and that's going to take a lot longer than learning a new scheme, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, some of the examples you said fall under a lack of situational awareness for me. Like, it's guys, on the backside overhelping and not being aware of like where they should be in that situation, and it's guys that, bite on a pass fake somewhere and leave their guy wide open. It's like a bunch of like individual things. I think what they're trying to do scheme wise is good, right? That's the start. The next is like individually, we're making so many stupid mistakes, and I think part of it, I mean, I know people can say this is an excuse, but you guys know I'm like not one to just fish for excuses. I legitimately think this could be part of it. Is just you have guys that are still a little bit out of shape, and they're in altitude on the road for the first time. Like, I mean, that I feel like might play a part of it, because it's just like the stupid mistakes, man. I mean, it was just mind-boggling bad today, and I hope that, okay, you come back home, you're more locked in because it's a regular season game, you're in Portland, you're not in altitude anymore, you have a few practices leading up to this opener, that a lot of these individual mistakes will get fixed. Now, they might not, I mean, I definitely don't disagree that this team doesn't seem to be great at improving a lot of the individual defensive mistakes. Last year we didn't really improve on a lot of the individual defensive mistakes we were making, but I'm hopeful that we maybe Nurkic after a few more practices is just a little bit in better shape, because he fell asleep on multiple plays, which isn't really normal from him. Derrick Jones Jr. was a guy who's like help side positioning wasn't good. It wasn't good throughout pretty much this entire preseason. And I dropped a clip just showcasing one of it, but like his off-ball defense was underwhelming. I thought it was going to be better. So, maybe it's just like new team, new preseason, new, I don't know exactly what Miami prides itself on defensively in terms of the scheme they run, but like there's an adjustment period. So there's just a bunch of factors where it's like I am somewhat concerned, but also for me, it's just me personally, and I'm not saying you're wrong for being frustrated, because I don't disagree with any of your reasoning, but for me it's just like I'm not going to get too worked up until this is like a consistent problem that's not improving in the regular season, right? Like if we're 5 games in and haven't improved, I will be just as frustrated as you are now, but until then it's kind of just like, okay, we just gotta wait and see and just be hopeful. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm being too optimistic with that, but that's just kind of how I view it.
Yeah. See, once again, I'm trying to think of how to put this. So it's a shortened season. We have a tough 6-game start. The West is going to be super tough this year. I understand we need to give a little bit of leeway for playing well, but like that's why we shouldn't have taken preseason games to not show anything or to not do anything. Like we couldn't afford to do that this year. I felt like maybe in years past we could have afforded to do that, but this year I don't think we could have afforded, with how little time to prep for these games, to hold stuff back if that's what's happening. So I felt like we needed to have some in-game experience and take some lumps, because like I just don't think we can afford to do it for too long during the regular season. And that's what I'm afraid of, is that the regular season, it won't go well at the beginning, and then we'll resort back to all the other stuff.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, man. Like, we can kind of get away with being stagnant in the regular season. Like it definitely costs us a couple games, but I feel like it doesn't cost us as many games as the defense does. So if it's just like, okay, they're focusing heavily on defense, like I understand that approach. I wish that they, A, had more time, B, kind of even the emphasis and actually made it a little bit more of an emphasis on moving the ball and whatnot. But I mean, we've seen last year, we were 3rd ranked offense in the regular season. Like that wasn't what was losing us games, and that was with worse offensive talent than we have. We're shooters, so it's just like, I don't know. I struggle with how much of a need that is right at the start of the season compared to the defensive stuff.
But I'm talking about both sides of the ball, not just offensively.
Oh, I mean, the defense is like a different story, but I mean, I can't come up with anything the coaching staff should have done differently so far. You know what I mean? Like, just based off the preseason. Like, a lot of the mistakes I feel like aren't due to the coaching staff, but if the mistakes remain at this level for 50 games, then you can blame the coaching staff, because like the coaching staff should be able to help these guys improve the execution of the defense, right? So there's a bunch of executional issues right now, which like I understand, right? The coaching staff, I think, if they do a good job, will help improve those executional mistakes. So if those executional mistakes don't improve by, halfway through the season, then I will be sitting here blaming the coaching staff for not getting their players to be able to improve their execution of the defense, right? Then that will be, then I'll be putting a bunch of the responsibility on Stotts. But like preseason game number 4, it's like, okay, we see what the issues are. Now it's time to correct them, right? And I can't really find fault with the coaching staff so far because I don't expect, the defense to be, I mean, like, I expect the defense to be executed a lot better than this, but I put the onus on the players right now because a lot of the mistakes are mind-boggling to me. And now it's like, okay, well, now I'm going to give the coaching staff time to hopefully help these guys improve the execution of the defense they're trying to do in order to become a decent defensive team.
Yeah, and I'm worried they don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm going to save my negativity towards the coaching staff until like they show that they're not helping the players improve on that end. You know what I mean? For me, it's just like, we'll wait and see. And this kind of goes back to my overall theme about, well, this is the kind of the make or break year for the coaching for me. And that's a make or break thing. Now it's like, okay, I'll give you the chance to improve these executional mistakes, Terry. Like, I'll give him the chance. I'll give him time before, being negative towards him or putting any of the responsibility on him. Like, I'll give him time to help the team improve these executional mistakes, because the philosophy and the idea I like from the coaching staff going into this preseason is completely different than last year when I had a serious problem with the way the coaching staff approached the defensive end. So I like that part of it. Now it's just, hopefully, fingers crossed, they're able to get this team executing this defense properly in some of the things they're trying to do.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel at times I feel like I'm watching a different game because I'm not seeing a lot of different philosophical things. Like, I see sometimes they attack a pick a different way, but like it's more like, oh, Nurk is like halfway dropping instead of fully dropping, like in one of the videos you showed where he doesn't hedge properly. And so I'm not sure if that's like he's being coached to do that or if he's just not accustomed to doing that yet. I'm willing to give that time to like let those kind of things pan out. But if he's like being taught to be like just a few steps up from where he was and not fully engaged in the pick like you're talking about, that's going to be a real problem for me, because once again, that'll show staff has no idea how to teach the players they're trying to change to do. But I mean, I hope you're right, and it's just that they're teaching him to hedge that harder, and he's not doing it properly. That's definitely a possibility. I'm not saying 100% out of the realm of possibility and that we're screwed based on preseason games. I'm just not very encouraged by both the effort and the just getting demolished on both ends of the court the last two games.
Yeah, looks like we're lagging a little bit. TikTok. Sorry about the lag, guys. It's having hiccups right now and having a little bit of issues. But see, like, that thing with Nurkic falls under the executional thing, right? Because I can blame the coaching staff if they're teaching it that way, or if Nurkic doesn't change things up, right? We might not be able to tell necessarily exactly how it's being taught, but if it's being taught correctly and Nurkic isn't picking it up, then you can fault the coaching staff for not helping Nurkic, for not getting Nurkic executing it better, right? Or it's being taught that way, and that's why he's playing it that way, and then, we'll be able to tell 40 games in, oh, he's still playing that way. Either they're not getting him to execute it properly, or they're teaching it that way. Either way, that's a problem with the coaching staff, right? So it's like, I'm happy with what the coaching staff is doing so far. If they do a good job, that's an executional mistake that will improve, right? If the coaching staff does a good job. If that doesn't improve, you got to put some onus on the coaching staff, at least some. And honestly, I think a lot of fans and even some media members might be on board with putting some of that onus on the coaching staff this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, Chad's on record. He said it multiple times tonight. That
it's weird, man. It's weird. I felt like tonight he was being a little bit more negative towards Stotts than I was. That's a little weird for me, man. I don't know. Like y'all, here's the thing. Like, you guys know I'm just trying to be honest with my opinions. Like, I'm not I'm not the type to try and just make excuses for Stotts. Like, I'm the last person to do that. And y'all know that. If you have watched me all year last season, I am the last person to do that. So it's not like, it's not like this is just me trying to be, the type of person I talked trash about last year and just spin everything positive and ignore issues. It's just more of like, I just got to wait and see, because I like the foundation they're trying to build of it, but there's a lot of issues with it. And if they improve, then I'll be happy with the coaching staff's approach to that. And, it's just a wait and see for me. Like, this preseason has me concerned, but it doesn't have me any less excited for the regular season, because, like, we still have a good roster, a better roster than last year. And honestly, even with our issues, like, I still think we'll be a better team than last year, and at least in like the 5th, 6th seed race, even with some of these issues. I just want these issues fixed, because I think that's like that'll give us a chance to contend, right? So it's not like we are some terrible team that will like scrape into the playoffs. In my opinion, even with a lot of our issues and warts, we're still talented enough to be better than we were last year. We have so much more talent on the court. Just hopefully we don't get injured like last year. That would be the one thing that would really set us back. It would be a repeat of last season, but we are talented enough, I think, to still be at a 5, 6 seed, competing in that range, maybe a 7 seed, even with all these issues. So now it's just like, okay, let's fix these issues so that we can contend. Like, that's not a bad situation to be in. It's frustrating, but it's not a bad situation to be in going into a season.
Yeah, I don't know. If we're like fighting to get in the playoffs or a 7th seed or whatever, like, I'm going to be a little frustrated. And yeah, this goes back to me with our off season. So if our plan was to play more ISO or keep playing ISO and do a lot of ISO stuff, yes, we've seen that works in the regular season, but that was the whole reason why I was mad about the Derrick Jones Jr. signing. So like, I'm going to be mad if we just resort back to that and don't really care about that end of the court until we figure out our defense. I feel like both, we've both been harping on the offense for times where people are like, are you kidding me? Stotts is an offensive genius. How could you ever say anything about offense? I understand defense, but like, you and I are like two of the only people who have ever mentioned that we don't think he's an offensive genius. We think he's actually quite poor on offense. He's just lucky enough to have guys like Damian Lillard and CJ who can create their own shots and score no matter what the offense is. So like, I don't like the fact that our offseason was set up that way if we're going to still rely on an ISO heavy offense. So yeah, I would.
Sorry, I accidentally turned up my media.
Oh no, it's okay.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think Olshey will be happy with that either, because when he brought in Derrick Jones Jr., he's like, we gotta get some of these guys moving off the ball, cutting. Like, that's a paraphrase, but I don't think Olshey will be happy with that either, because I don't think Olshey wants the team to be last in the league in assists. It's like, Olshey gives Stotts his freedom to coach the team how he wants, but I feel like at this point, Olshey is really noticing some of the issues that plague us in the playoffs, and he wants those issues fixed. And I think the lack of ball movement in the stagnant offense is one of them, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, it would suck for that to remain an issue and waste a year of Dame's prime, but if the offense is still ran like this, we will likely lose in the first round, in my opinion, if the offense doesn't improve from what it is right now. Even if the defense is like 10th to 15th, we'll still lose in the first round, in my opinion. If that happens, I think there's a new coach next year, right? That would, I think a big part of the interview for that coach would be finding somebody that can get this team to really move the ball as well as execute defensively. And then, that would raise our ceiling and our potential to contend in following seasons if Stotts truly can't get the job done. So, like, it's not like a situation like last year where it's like, oh, well, Stotts is going to be back next year no matter what. It's like Stotts has pressure on him. His approach to the defensive end, I'm actually happier with than his approach to the offensive end, believe it or not. The offensive genius who can't coach defense, I'm happier with his defensive philosophy going into this preseason than the offensive stuff they're doing. So it's like another reason why it's like wait and see with me, because even if it's like worst case scenario, I still think we'll be a better than last season, just because we will have a better roster, and at least a better defensive philosophy. We shouldn't be 27th worst again, and that's in the worst case scenario. And in that scenario, if we lose in the first round, Stotts is likely gone, which is better than, okay, well, it doesn't matter how poor Stotts coaches, he's coming back. So that's the thing, is like, that's why I'm still excited for this season, because I like the players on this team. I like this roster more than I like last year's roster. And the worst case scenario, I don't think is as bad as last season, unless, we deal with some injuries, right? I'm just saying, like, assuming we're healthy, knock on wood every time I even say that word, but assuming we're healthy, the worst case scenario is better than last season. And the fallout from that is better than last season, in the worst case scenario, in my opinion. The best case scenario is a lot better than last season. So that's why I'm still like, let's just wait and see.
We ended up 35 and 39 in the regular season or something. We better be better than that.
Yeah,
this season. Like, there's no. But here's the problem, though. We have this man, Damian Lillard, who is capable of carrying a team on his back, regardless of the coaching. We've seen that in the past. So, like, and we have other guys who can get hot and win games for you. So the problem is, if we have a decent enough regular season and lose in the first round, is Stotts saved because we had a good regular season? I mean, it's kind of too early to tell on that, but our problem has always been that it's the playoffs that matter, and if we waste another season doing the same things, I am going to be livid if we get into the playoffs and lose because we do not have a motion offense that's featuring people off ball moving and passing the ball and stuff like that. So I'm hopeful that this is just the growing pains of learning a new system and that it's fine. But this roster is way too good to not be up there fighting for home court advantage this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's, if healthy, if we lose in the first round this year, Stotts is fired, more likely than not. That's my opinion, and some people could disagree with that. That's just like my gut feeling. Like, if this team does not make it out of the first round and it's healthy, then Stotts is gone and we're bringing in a new coach, so that helps me be a little bit more optimistic going into the season. Like, dang, even if everything hits the fan, I feel like we'll improve from it next year with a different coach, you know what I mean? Stotts will improve this year and deserve to be the head coach of this team, which I still think is a definite possibility. So either way, like, there's going to be improvement at that position in the next 2 years, most likely, and it's going to be better than what we saw tonight. So that's kind of what keeps me just, not, being too frustrated with this. Like, part of me is definitely frustrated because I hate this type of stuff, and you heard me all last year be extremely frustrated with this and go on a number of rants myself, and this year is kind of just like, I don't know. The downside just isn't as bad to me, and I still think this team can definitely figure it out and fix some of these issues. Might be singing a different tone after Game 5, though. I don't know.
See, after 8 years of this, I am not willing to give Stotts that much of a leash, and to say that there's a positive if this year goes bad, or that if we lose in the first round, I don't see that at all. I think that's all negative. And
you don't think if he doesn't improve and then he gets fired because we lose in the first round, if we hire, in your opinion, a better coach, that's not a silver lining?
In any other year, it would be, but Dame is 30 years old now. We need to get going. Like, we need to start winning games, and if there's the same issues we've been talking about for years cost the Blazers another season because they were unwilling or unable to see that this is who Stotts has been every season he's been here. And it took 9 years after this season to realize that. That's a failure by our organization, I believe. And I just don't like wasting another
do
year
I.
if that's the if
Neither
that's what
do
happens.
I. No, neither do I. But I just like a lot of fans like, oh, I'm not excited for the season anymore. Like
Oh,
I
I'm
don't even
not.
know if I want to watch.
It's
Like all the negativity right
yeah.
now, I feel like it's just a little overboard. So maybe I'm trying to be like the contrarian to that a little bit too much. Like, and I'm not saying that's how you are at all. Like because you're not. Like everything you're saying is very well measured, and I don't even disagree with pretty much any of it. For me, it's just like I don't know. There's so many fans that are going overboard right now. That's kind of just like I'm just gonna relax and wait and see, because we're gonna have a game that counts 5 days from now, and then we're gonna have a game basically almost every other day for months, So we'll be able to see pretty early. So there's no, I don't know. I'm just down to wait for that instead of kind of buy into like some of the stuff that some fans are saying, so to say.
It's almost the opposite for me. I'm so excited for this season that I'm gonna like the letdown if we do not have a good year is going to be more disappointing to me than pretty much any other season. Like last season was a bummer because we didn't play well. We lost to a lot of crappy teams and stuff like that. But like there was always the injury excuse all year, and we had to deal with that. And it wasn't the expectations at the beginning of the year weren't as high as they would be right now because we did have Nurk out for most of the year. And if we could have just stayed afloat, who knows how the season would have panned out if it didn't get postponed and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want to be let down this season. I'm so excited about the season. I'm so excited about our roster. I feel like we have the personnel to play any type of way that Stotts wants, so there's no excuses to not play or to do stuff that's like wrong because if we're playing a team that's good at like transition baskets and pushing the ball and pesters our guards on defense, I feel like we have the personnel to avoid having that team kill us this year, or vice versa. If we're playing like a slow it down half court team that uses a lot of sets and stuff like that, I feel like we have the personnel to also counteract those kind of things. So like it's just going to be I'm going to be even more mad than I normally am if I continue to see this. So I'm hoping it's not. I don't want to be too negative, but yeah, it's and everyone in chat's saying we need to watch the Stotts interview. They're all mad about it.
I don't want it. Honestly, like why?
Yeah.
Like I don't care. It's crazy. Like I don't know. I mean, hopefully Stotts says different things publicly than he says to the team. I mean, last game, Stotts said he was very disappointed and whatnot. This game, he's saying, oh, we can turn it around quickly. You know what I mean? It's not like he said that after last game and last game, he was like, I'm very disappointed in our defense. We really have to fix some things, which is like what I want to hear from him. So it's like, I'm not going to sit here and like, oh, he's always 1000% sugarcoating everything when like after last game he was pretty honest and I actually agreed with a lot of what he said. So like, and for that reasoning, it's kind of just like I don't really want to watch it, if that makes sense. But for me, it's just like I'm not going to be too like negative. I don't know. I don't want to be in I don't want to be in a negative mind space. So like for me, it's just like I'm not going to be like scared of, oh, what if this is a big letdown just off some preseason games. 5 games in, I might be just as scared as you, but for me it's like I want to hold off on like being worried and I know like I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. It's just like I just want to be optimistic going into the season, and I don't know. I guess some of it is just like how I want to feel. You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah. Like I got so sick of the feeling last year that I don't want that feeling yet. So I'm just pushing against that, if that makes sense. And yeah. I guess that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
So
I'm more of the mindset that Thomas Gransky had earlier, when he said like it's on Stotts to prove otherwise. So like I'm not going to change my mindset necessarily until I start seeing more action out of him versus just saying it. So that's that'll be my thing, is until I actually see an effort worthy of him saying stuff like, oh, we can turn it around quickly, it's no big deal, like whatever, like until I see that like transpire on the court. I'm not gonna be as optimistic as you, but I understand your mindset. Yeah,
I agree with that. Like 100% agree with that. For me, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna give him time more than a few preseason games to like get that done before I start bashing him, if that makes sense. I don't know. So I think it's just, I don't know. Like, we could come out against Utah and move, like, we have random games where we do move the ball decently. Like, we could come out against Utah and move the ball well and actually execute defensively and win by 20. Like, this team is the type of team that could do that. And then we'll be like, oh, see, they can play this way. You know what I mean? But, like, let's not get too caught up in the positivity, like, thinking that they'll continuously play this way. Because if that happens, what will I be saying? I'll be saying, this team has had random games where they've moved the ball well, and that hasn't translated to consistency in that regard. So we can't just take one game and think that they're going to move the ball well. We have to wait and see on that. Even if it's a positive, for me, it'll be, okay, we have to wait and see. Like, everything, positive, negative with me is we gotta wait and see. After the first game, I was excited and the team looked great, and everyone goes, oh yeah, we're gonna win the championship, like, so, like, positive. And I was still like, okay, we gotta wait and see if they can do this consistently. So yeah, I mean, well, that's my motto, which is completely different compared to last year, because last year I don't think I said that once during any post-game stream at all last year, and I've said it a ton this season already. But yeah, for me, it's just wait and see before I start, being too critical. I don't want to be overly critical, and part of me is definitely frustrated and kind of tapping into the way last year was, the feelings last year was. But I just want to kind of just wait and just give everyone a little bit of time and a chance to really figure these things out. So
sure.
It's a dude, this is cool, because normally I'm like ranting. It's kind of weird for you to be more worked up than me, because I don't know if there's any, was there a post-game show last year where I was less frustrated than you? I don't think there was. Like, our frustration was pretty much in sync last year.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
So it's
I mean, I had
different.
some rants, but I think
I was always like, yeah, Eric, tell him.
Okay.
So
I want to address something in chat. So Portlandia says, Eric, I know we're going to be fine. Lakers are the only team that is good as the Blazers. Fine. Great point. Like, whatever. We're good. I think we're good. I think that's maybe you could say the Clippers. The Nuggets obviously look a lot better than us right now. But I think we're right up there with some of those teams fighting for the third to fifth seed, whatever. But then his next post is, let me find it real quick. Oh, where'd it go? Did someone delete it?
He said Eric is either totally cool or continuously criticizes thoughts. I like when he is cool / chill better. That one.
Nope. He says, Eric, instead of bashing Stotts all the time unnecessarily,
it's not unnecessary.
Why can't you just say the West is really good? So you just said Portland is right up there with every team other than the Lakers, but then you're going to excuse them playing poorly because the West is good? Dude, try making sense. Like, you have to be consistent, and that's the problem. I've been consistent with my opinions this entire time that Blazers Uprise has existed, and I have not unnecessarily criticized him at any point. All my points have been valid. If you don't see that, if you want to sugarcoat it like our announcers did during the game tonight, that's fine. But like, I'm just going to say what I feel, and I'm trying not to bash Dots. I would love for it to be different. I'm hoping that Tori is 1,000% right, and that we're sitting here saying, phew, I shouldn't have been so worried about preseason because this is great, and Stotts is doing a wonderful job this year. I will fully admit that and say that, and Tori knows that I will do that too, and if I think that he is coaching well. So don't worry about that, man. Just worry about yourself. You're always don't give me crap like the Bucks are 0-3 in preseason. It means nothing. Like, I don't care about the Bucks, dude. It doesn't matter when
Yeah, I mean, but I mean the logic that we're just as good as any team in the West except for maybe the Lakers, and then using the West is really good as an excuse for us losing by 30 against the Western Conference team doesn't make sense. Like, either we're as good as the rest of the West or we're not, right? You can't, like, that's a contradiction. So, that's the thing, is like, we got to hold ourselves. I think fans need to hold the team to a little higher standard than they have in the past. Like, here's the thing, is like, fans in the preseason will say stuff like, oh yeah, we're so talented, we're just as good as any team except for maybe the Warriors or maybe the Lakers, and then like we'll struggle, and then it's, oh well, this team is nowhere near as talented as the rest of the West, that West is just so good. And it's like, that contradicts itself. Like, either we are as good as the rest of the West, or we're not. So that contradiction I've never really understood personally. You know, like, I don't, you know, like, necessarily singling out Portlandia, because like a lot of fans have that kind of mindset. Well, it's just when okay, fans say we're just as good as the rest of the West, right? And then we have some coaching issues that make it so we're not playing up to the level of the rest of the West, and then the fans that said we're as good as the rest of the West then say, oh, you shouldn't be criticizing the coach, we're just not as good as the rest of the West. Like, that part gets kind of frustrating.
Mm-hmm. And Portlandia is cool. He watches a lot, but he's had a problem multiple times with the way we evaluate the coaching staff, and it's been that way going back to last season. So I'm not just singling him out from this particular show.
Y'all can disagree with our opinions on the coach, you know, and you can voice why you disagree and whatnot, but like, saying like our criticisms are unnecessary just because you disagree is just kind of like, no, it's not necessarily unnecessary. You just don't see things the same way we do, which is completely fine. It doesn't make what we're saying unnecessary, or we shouldn't say what we say. Like, if we allow you guys to voice your disagreements, you shouldn't be telling us that we shouldn't be voicing our opinions. You know what I mean? That's definitely like a pet peeve that I know like you have and I have too, when people tell us what we should be saying or what to say or what we need to be doing, like on the stream. Like, that part is frustrating. So like, you can disagree all you want, and you're entitled to your opinion, Portlandia. You're entitled to your disagreements 100%. Just don't, you know, just don't be in chat telling us what we should and shouldn't be saying and we're unnecessary and like that type of stuff, because it definitely isn't, you know, fair to us if we are fair to you guys and let you guys voice your disagreements, you know, because a lot of media, when people disagree with them, they just attack. If we were doing that, then I'd understand why chat would respond to us the same way, right? But we try and be respectful of everybody's opinions. So it does get a little frustrating when it seems like it's not being respected back, just over a disagreement. Because disagreements will happen. Not everybody's always going to agree with everything we say, and that's perfectly fine.
And here's what I'll say to that. Like, so instead of just saying, oh, you're unnecessarily criticizing him, Portland's the best, blah, blah, blah. Like, just say, here is why I think Stotts is still the right coach and why I don't think he should be criticized in this way. And it's because of X, Y, and Z. And then we'll be like, okay, I don't see it that way, but you're free to see that. But when you just say like, oh, you just criticize him just to criticize him or whatever, and it has no merit to it, that's when we're going to have an issue, or that's when we don't like having people like that in the comments, because that's not a discussion. That's just you trying to say like, you don't like what we're saying and you don't agree with it, but you're not giving an example of it or a reason to why we're being like that. You're just saying it's unnecessary instead of saying this. I think it's unnecessarily because of this, and this, but that's just my point of view.
Yeah. Brother Kid says, I'm on the we need to move the ball wave, especially when a team like Denver passes the air out of the ball for easy layups, but I hope it's just because of the preseason and not that we didn't do anything to change. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's hard to be like super optimistic considering this is kind of how we've played the last few years, but like, I'm willing to just give it a little bit of time and hopefully it changes. And if it doesn't change, then that'll be an issue. But yeah, it's like Denver will have a lineup out there with no notable playmakers or passers. They'll have a lineup with like PJ Dozier, JaMychal Green, Isaiah Hartenstein, Will Barton, Gary Harris. And that lineup will be moving the ball beautifully, right? And it's like, the excuses that's been made is like, oh, we don't have the personnel to move the ball like that. Look at that personnel. What's so special about that personnel that allows them to pass the ball? Nothing. It's a philosophical thing. So that is the thing. It's a philosophical thing that we need to adapt this year, and I'm hoping that we do. And if we don't, then it's probably going to be an issue, and it could end up getting Stotts fired. To be quite honest with you, because I think Olshey wants us to adopt that as well, which is good. Olshey has grown in my eyes, not only because of this offseason, but also because some of the schematical things and the style of play things that he's basically, either directly or alluded to us needing to fix. So, I'm just going to let it develop, and I will have my opinion. I will be more opinionated once we let it develop a little bit more. That's basically my whole mindset.
Yep.
Lots of fans will be mad if Stotts get fired. That'll, but I won't. I won't be. I won't be. And here's the thing. If we ended up firing Stotts and hired a coach nobody knows of, that doesn't mean they're going to be bad, right? Dwayne Casey won Coach of the Year, right, in Toronto, gets fired the year he wins Coach of the Year, and they hire a guy who, nobody knew in Nick Nurse. And Nick Nurse is a top 3 coach in the league, right? That wouldn't be a bad thing. And you had Portland media saying, why did they fire the coach of the year and hire a guy nobody knows? That's so dumb. And then Nick Nurse is a great coach and leads him to a championship, helps lead him to a championship. So that's the thing. If that happened, you gotta give that new guy a chance. If you don't know him, then you don't know if he's going to be bad or good or better or worse in your opinion. You can't have an opinion on somebody you don't know anything about, So I understand being upset if Stotts gets fired, but saying, I will only be okay with Stotts being fired if we get a Popovich or a Spoelstra. I don't understand that, because the new guy that you've never heard of, who's never been a head coach before, might be the next Popovich or Spoelstra or Nick Nurse. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll take comments for a little bit more. We'll probably log off in about 5 minutes, keeping this postgame show a little bit short. And we'll be live on Monday previewing the NBA season. We'll maybe do Eric's standings predictions if you want to. That'd be fun to do.
Reese wants to talk about how he has sources now.
Reese, Reese DM'd Nasir Little's father, and Nasir Little's father said that
Miles will be back.
Should be back soon, which is what everybody was assuming. Anyways, It's not Reese gotta keep Reese from getting too high there. It's not like it was anything news breaking. But congrats, Reese, you got a source. Yeah, well played, man. Reese is the young Woj, right?
And,
so,
for the record, I kind of told him what to say. But.
Hey, we're mentoring the next Woj, bro. So he's gonna 10 years from now he's gonna be breaking signings, with sources tell Uprise Sports or something. That's the future.
And you know what? He just to get a response as quickly as he did, obviously meant that he said something that was worthy of a response, so I have to give him credit for that.
Yeah. Yep. Well played. Beavis, congrats, man. I know that made your entire day. I know that means more than a Blazer win or loss for you. Vedran Bosnick. See, that's a guy I'll have to research him blocked, because I've never even heard that name before. Doesn't mean he'd be a bad coach, though. Because a guy I like is Ettore Messina, who a lot of people have never heard of. So, Press Sports sounds tight. Yeah, I think it sounds pretty cool too.
I'll be interested to see how that. God, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
The guy in Indiana.
The guy in Indiana hired
Grin or whoever.
He's a Nick Nurse disciple. We'll have to see how that coaching tree pans out.
Yeah, the Nick Nurse already has a coaching tree already, man. But see, Indiana didn't improve their roster at all, but they could have made a legitimate coaching upgrade. So that'll be an interesting experiment to see play out. And from what I've heard about their new coach, a lot of his philosophies I agree with, and would be mine if I was a coach, and something that I want this team to adopt. So that experiment would be intriguing, because Nate McMillan kind of stagnant offensive coach too. He's gotten a little better in that regard, but has some deficiencies, probably some shared deficiencies as thoughts. So it'll be interesting to see how that coaching change affects the Pacers. I think the Pacers once again are kind of a sleeper in the East. They're always generally underrated, and now they're healthier than they've been the past couple of years. So that's a team to watch out for sure.
Yeah. But I agree. I've actually seen a lot of people saying they won't make the playoffs, and I think that's kind of crazy. But
dude, people treat Indiana kind of the same way as they treat us, like media and NBA fans and whatnot. I feel like Indiana is always generally slept on going into each season, and they have some playoff letdowns, and in the past few years they haven't done as well as us, but they've still been in the playoff picture. They were the 4 seed last year. Everybody was saying, oh, they might take a step back, miss the playoffs. Every single year it's like that. But you look at their roster, it's you got Sabonis there, who was an all-star last season. You got Victor Oladipo, who, if he bounces back to kind of Oladipo he was before he had that injury, then that's another all-star caliber player. And you got Brogdon in there, who's a underrated guy. You got Turner, you got TJ Warren, who really stepped up last year and looked like an all-star in the bubble. You got talent on that team. Mm-hmm. And if you have the right coach with that team too, that team could definitely be a dark horse.
Yeah, for sure.
So anything else you want to get to with this post-game show?
No, I'd rather not read chat right now.
All right. I respect that decision. So yeah, we'll wrap this up. Not quite what we wanted, but hoping for some change and hoping for some positive developments during the regular season, and hopefully they can beat Utah on opening night once again, because I feel like they always play Utah opening night and they always generally beat them. So hopefully they can turn things around once we get into the regular season and grow into the team that I hope they can be. That is my mindset. We'll wait and see if that happens. Hopefully it does. Other than that, we will be live on Monday, right here on Blazers Uprise Live. On Wednesday, Blazers Uprise Live will be at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. We will have picks against the spread. We will preview the opening night game later, because our opening night game's on Wednesday, so that'll be a little bit before the game, and we can preview that and preview some of the other NBA action for that night, and recap what happens on opening night the day before, because opening night is Tuesday for the Lakers and the Warriors. The Warriors are playing the Nets, right? I forget what the opening night slate is, but yeah, so we will actually be able to talk about some regular season NBA basketball on Wednesday on Blazers Uprise Live, but we will stream Monday night. That'll be our last night stream that'll be our last night stream that isn't a post-game show for a while. So basically that'll be the end of the preseason and off-season. We'll get into the regular season content. Other than that, probably going to get... You're going to get at least one video drop this weekend, and then a mailbag on Monday. You might get another video on top of that, so you'll get some content between now and the next time we see you guys live. So be on the lookout for that. Follow us on Twitter at TorJonesYT for me. Follow Eric at HoopsJock. Our handles are below our names. Leave a like on this video. It really does help us out. And subscribe if you're new to Blazers Uprise Live. You can subscribe to our main channel. Link is at the top of the description below. And with that, we're out of here. Hope you guys have a good rest of your night and a good weekend ahead. And until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.